Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to look at the 1 to 5 player game BattleCON Devastation of the Indines. This is published by Level 99 Games, and it takes about 30 minutes to play. Let's go ahead down to the table. I'll give you a general idea what comes with the game and how it plays, and then we'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Okay, before I show you the game itself, I wanted to go over a couple things. I just wanted to point out that the game comes with all of these fighters, which is really, really cool. And they all have their own individual box, and they fit really nicely into this cardboard insert that comes with the game. So you're going to have your own little player box for each of the characters that you can play during the game, and it gives you a little bit of an overview of them on the back. To start the game, each player is going to select one of these characters, and all the components they need are going for the characters going to be inside the box. Now, a couple other things to mention, especially for character creation or character selection, is the game comes with these 3 chapter books, and these are really cool because these little books right here, they have a little map of the area, which is really cool. They each have their own little story that you can go through. They each then have their set of characters that go over, and you can see there's novice, intermediate, and advanced. Now, one thing to mention is that you can fight a novice with an advanced and they are uneven footing. It just, these ones are a little bit more complicated to run and they can do some really cool stuff. And throughout the book, so those characters are going to be explained in here. You're going to have two pages per character. You're going to have a full art section right here. And then you're going to have like a little flavor text on the character itself. And then very importantly right here, you're going to have the kit description of what that character gets. So that's what's in this character's box. So like I said, each of them have their own little grouping. Like this one here is going to be part 2. It's going to have its own little story, and then it's going to have its own set of characters here, which will be explained in this section. And again, it has little flavors and the flavor text and the kit that should be coming with that character. And there's 3 of these. So it's really cool to read the story and then maybe just fight with those fighters in each of the different books. That's cool, but you don't have to. You can just select whatever fighter you want and go if you want. The game comes with a really nice rule book too. This rule book is pretty darn clear and has a lot of really good examples, especially when it comes to some of the little trickier things, which is actually movements. It can be tricky and pushing and pulling, and it has also a little set here where you can go through all the other effects that you can use as reference to make sure you're doing things right. And then there are multiplayer rules on here. Generally, it's going to be teams. In a game of BattleCon, basically what you're doing is you are trying to be the last person standing. So either that's going to be the last team, or it's a free-for-all, the last person itself. There's different modes that you can select in there for multiplayer. And it actually comes with a mode guide, which will give you all sorts of really cool, like different battle scenarios and modes and all sorts of cool stuff that you can play through the game. So there's a lot of different things you can do to make the game awesome that come with it. Also, if you had the earlier edition of this, there's a transition guide that comes with it, and this just basically explains how to transition to the 4th edition. It also comes with a really cool poster, which I'm not going to really fan out too much, but I'm going to show you the real big point of the poster is you have a quick start guide on the other side, which is really nice. So that's all the books and stuff you get with it, and I just wanted to show that to show like the massive amount of characters that you get and the all the different modes that you can play through the game. This game has a ton of replayability. You could play this game so much. And every game is going to be, even if you play the same fighters, the duels are going to just get better as you learn the fighters. In fact, you should learn your opponent's fighters just as much as you learn your own fighters. So there's hundreds of hours of content in this game. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go set up like a basic duel, and we'll go over the basic rules on here, and we're just going to do 2-player rules, but there, you know that there's multiplayer, know there's all different modes that you can do also. Okay, so this is what a typical setup of BattleCON will look like. Now, what you're going to do to get the game started is you're going to get out the character box that you selected and take out the contents and place them out. Now, if you ever question on what comes with it, you'll have this player card here, and then on the opposite side of the player card tells you about it, tells you about the setup. And this one here, you have 2 vengeance and deplete all remaining vengeance. So basically I'll have 2 active vengeance, and the other 3 will be depleted over here. Now we'll go over what that means in a second, but know that this will tell you what your kit gets. So a kit's going to get these little tokens down in here to place out, and those were the vengeance tokens. And these are all public information. Everything in this game is public information that's displayed. So if another player wants to know what you have, they can borrow your card and take a look and stuff. This also shows you the bases that come with it. Now this is just going to be the basic bases. And you will also have to select one of your finishes, and this tells you about its styles. So beyond that, you have this additional thing, which is going to be your finish. So know what your character's ability is, and your opponent can know what your character's ability is, and all of them have different abilities that are really cool during the game. And like I said, that's public information you have to show. But at the start of the game, you're going to have a side B and a side A. You're going to select one of these, whichever the one that you like the most, and this is going to be a finisher. And you can only ever play a finisher once during a game. One of your finisher once during a game. So keep that in mind. Each player will get 20 life, and the game will end when a player is down to 0 life. The game will immediately end and the other person will win, or we run out of force. And the game starts with 45 force. Each player is going to separate their 2 decks, which the way that this game works is you're going to make combo pairs, and those are going to be how you're going to determine if you're going to do damage or not. So once this is set up this way, each player is going to get 2 force. So I'll have 2 force available for me, and the opponent will have 2 force available to them. They will also go through their deck, which this is completely in your hand, and you're going to have to select 2 different combo pairs. So this is going to be, notice how the borders here will match up, and that makes your combo pair. You're going to have to select 2 of these and discard them. One in discard pile 1 and one in discard pile 2, and these things cycle throughout the game. And if you're not sure which ones you want to get rid of, if you notice this little number on the bottom, these have pairing matches on this side. So this is the 1, and then there's going to be a 2 in here too. Those are the suggested discard cards. So they suggest you discard these. So 2 and 1, but you can discard anything you want. Now this switch card is special. We'll go over in a second, but just know that, I don't know where the other one went. We're just going to randomly pick one, and we're going to make up our 2 discard piles. So these will be what you're going to pick up at the end of every beat. And a beat's basically a round of combat. So to start off the game, what you're going to do is you're going to pick which combos you want. And there's a couple of things we're going to look at here. So when you do these combos, we're not going to worry about the bottom yet, but when you do these combos, you're going to take these numbers and add them up, and that's going to be, so this one right now has a range of 1, a power of 1, a priority of -2, and a guard of 0. Some of them see. We'll do a. Some of them have numbers like this. So this 2 to 3. So this means its range is 2 to 3 spaces. Where if this was here, it would be just a range of 1. If you ever have to add these numbers to these, you add them to both. So this would be a range between 3 and 4. So that's how that works. Now, what these different things mean. So if I did this combo pair here, it means that I'd have to have 1 space away from the opponent. I would have 1 power, which is the damage I would do. My priority would be -2, so the person with the highest priority goes first. And my guard here is how much damage I can take before I become stunned. If a player becomes stunned before they start their attack, they won't be able to attack the opponent. Now, you look at these abilities here and see when they occur. We're going to go over that in a little bit, but basically sometimes you have abilities that triggers on here, like this is at the start. The opponent's base has the same name as yours, stun the opponent. Before you were hit, you can advance up to 1 to 3 spaces. Advances means going forward. So in this case, I'm on this side, so it means me going to the right. Retreat means me going to the left. Now, real quick, because movement can be a little complicated, I'm going to go over movement. If it says 1 to 3, you have to go 1 to 3 spaces, and it doesn't count the space that the opponent's on, so I can do 1, 2, 3 if I wanted. If it says 3 exactly, you have to move 3 exactly. If you're not able to move, like in this case advances this way 3 spaces, you don't do the movement. That's movement, retreat, and advance in a nutshell. We'll go over push and pull, which is a different action too, in a couple seconds. But just know that you're looking at your combo pairs. So when I place these out to start the combat, and if you're looking for the person with the highest priority to go first. If the priority matches, what's going to end up happening is for your base side, you're going to select another base. And cover over top of it, and you then recompare priorities, and if you have any start of round actions or whatever, those occur. But the big thing is once priority has been resolved and someone becomes the active player, so you have these little cards right here, active and passive. So once the person with the highest priority will become the active player. We'll go over that in a second, what that all means, but that is basically what you're going to be doing. And at the end of the beat, any cards that weren't used, so the cards that I covered over, will go back to my hands, and these would go into your discard piles, and we'll go over that in a second. One of the things I wanted to mention real quick is there's going to be these 6 different fighting styles in the game that you're going to want to look up. There's going to be Slugger, Tactician, Mage, Disruptor, Brawler, and Tinkerer, and they're all balanced in a certain way. So that's a good thing to keep in mind when you're selecting your characters. And this isn't really going to be a complete rules thing. This is a general gist on how to play this game and how fluid the game is. So one of the other things I wanted to mention, because we're just going to get into the flow of the combat and the rounds in a second. One of the things I wanted to mention is that if you actually played this guy here, you could use your finisher. So you would actually replace that with your finisher. And if you ever remove the finisher, you actually remove these from the game itself. And the finisher does cool abilities on here, and just pay attention to it. But notice that you have like sort of these really cool super attack that you can do one time a game. And that's the point of the finisher card. Or I mean, that's the point of the switch card, which is nice. Okay, so let's go over the flow of a round. At the beginning of the round, you can ante. And what ante means is you can actually take these tokens, if you have any, and place them in. And you can go in turn order. So let's place these back here. Let's just go reset stuff. And once these things are spent, they're gone. And different things trigger for ante, but just know that some players have tokens, other players don't have tokens. If a player doesn't have tokens, they can't really ante, but you can, players will take turns, and you can either ante or pass. If both players pass, then that phase of the beat is over, and you continue on. Now, if you pass and your opponent doesn't, you actually have the option to ante in if you want. So just keep that in mind, that the ante phase doesn't end until both players have passed. The next thing you're going to do is, remember how I was talking about making these combo pairs? These will be flipped over until after the ante part, and then you're going to flip them. And I'm not going over too much of what anteing means, except for there's cards that can use these tokens in your deck, and just be aware that those are available. And also, I wanted to mention too, before the reveal step, you can use these force, and you can spend 2 force to gain one of these power-ups for the round, and you can only have 1 power-up of each type per round. So these will give you like different, oops, it's a little better here. These will give you different abilities that you get during that beat, which is cool. So after the reveal phase, you just resolve it to see whoever has the highest priority. Whoever's highest priority, if you don't need to do the clash I talked about, you get one person will get this reactive player, and let's say I won, I would get the active player. Now throughout this beat, the active player will do its things, and the reactive player will do their things. Now the active player will attack. So what you're going to do is, let's say you're always pay attention to triggers, and they're going to have different keywords. We're not going to go over them all, but before would be before combat. I can do advance 1. I can regain, when I hit, I regain 2 vengeance, so I will gain 2 more of these vengeance that I can use. And I have this start, which would happen before, because start is there. And in the rule books, they have the little lineup of how all these work, but I get plus X power, where X is printed power on the opponent's style and base. So the base is the ones on the right, though. So those are the ones you actually cover. Our side, I showed the wrong thing earlier, but these are the bases. So this one here is sort of like a copycat move to gain a little bit more, and you also have armor 1. So difference between armor and guard is armor will block damage, but guard will not. All guard says is how much damage I can take, this character can take before it's stunned. And like I said, stun sort of nullifies their attack, especially if they're the non-active player. So there's a lot of effects that have to do with stunned. Now, if I'm the active player and I start my combat and I become stunned, I still get to finish all my combat. So keep that in mind, because stun does matter for some effects, but once you start your combat, you finish it if you weren't stunned at the beginning. So I check my range, and then I do my hit and my damage. So let's say I had 4 power, and my opponent didn't have any armor, but they had a guard of 4. They would just take the damage off their life, and it would be their turn, and they, as the reactive player, would go through the combat. Now, if as the active player, they had a guard of 3 and I did 4 damage, they would become stunned, and they would skip their attack. So that's a big thing to remember in the game, that being able to gain priority at different points is very important, and know that when you don't have priority, how to mitigate either becoming stunned or do different things to try to mitigate the damage you'll take on the turn. Now, at the end of the beat, any of the triggers are run through. Even if the reactive player was knocked out, they still run their end of beat triggers. If they have any, and they'll be printed on the cards or whatnot. And then you recycle. So basically what recycling will be is you will take your discard pile off to the left here and put a new discard pile here, and then this one comes up to your hand. So now you know that when you play through these cards, you're not going to have them available for a while, and this is your hand, so you're going to have to deal with what you got going here. And your opponent will have a general idea, if they're paying attention to what cards you played already, of what you got in your hand. And again, they can look at your little cards over here, reference cards on here, to know what you could have. So it gives good informed decisions for the battles as they continue throughout the game. You will also gain a force. If you're pretty low on health, there's a point where you'll be able to gain 2 force instead of 1 force. Now, like I said, if no one gets knocked out, when this runs out of force, the game will end. You'll have 1 more beat, so 1 more round to fight. You will get reserve force for that round that you can use to spend, but you'll have 1 more. And at the end of that, the person with the most life will win. So that is a really, really quick nutshell of how to play BattleCON. So again, the point of BattleCON is going to be to deplete your opponent's life down to 0. You're going to make combo pairs throughout the game to do your attacks. You're going to use all your character's unique abilities to give you an edge. All the information is open throughout the game. Rounds take about 30 minutes or less, and I would suggest you do a best 2 out of 3. So, and when the rounds will take generally, or games will take generally less than 30 minutes. But best 2 out of 3 is nice because it sort of gives the opponent a chance to get used to the other character and whatnot. But yeah, best 2 out of 3. Games take about 30 minutes or so to play. And that is, again, basically how you're going to play BattleCON. Let's go ahead back up to the table here, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this game. Okay, I really, really like BattleCON Devastation of Indines. I think this is like the best head-to-head combat board game I have. There is so much variety to the game with the 32 different fighters that you could play this game pretty much forever and still have like a unique gaming experience. And beyond that, they have the book with the different game modes and all sorts of different really cool content in there. And you can do like cooperative style games where you fight a boss. There's just so much in this game. And to add it onto it, it has those nice 3 little books there that gives like a story and a flavor to each of the characters, a good bit. So it gets you more and more invested in this really, really cool world. It really does feel like you're playing like a fighter video game throughout it. So if you're ever thinking about looking for a combo style head-to-head combat game, this is the one you should definitely check out. I think it is the best. This one has so much in this box, so much replayability. You can easily teach it to someone new to play the game. Even if you're experienced, you can go into the more advanced players or one of the characters definitely one of the characters you've never played before. So you're sort of learning with a new player, learning their character, learning your character. It's just fun. I can't recommend this enough. If you're looking for a combat style board game, this is the game you want to check out. So that's my thoughts on BattleCON Devastation of the Indines. Thank you for watching.